Ooh. Sometimes after a hot day out in the field, I like to step inside and have myself a nice cold ice cream and hot fudge sundae! Ice cream sundae. That's good information. And what am I sitting on? It's not the Trail 90. But as I was saying in the last episode, before the interruption, it turns out I had a faulty brake light switch that was stuck in the on position. So whenever the brake light was connected to the electrical system, it drew so much power there wasn't enough left over to fire the spark plug. So I think the mystery of why my motorcycle wouldn't run with this wire connected is solved. Put it in the books. But what should I do about the non-working front brake light switch? I looked into how much a replacement brake cable would cost and was flabbergasted at how expensive they are. So rather than spend hard-earned money on a new cable, I took a little walk over here to the toolbox. This is where I keep all the miscellaneous electrical items that I gather from various places. I started rummaging around in here a little bit looking for inspiration. And look what I found. This is a small switch. It can be configured into a normally open or normally closed position. I salvaged it from some kind of appliance, I don't remember what, but that doesn't matter. Using little more than this switch, a piece of scrap metal, a Dremel tool, a drill, a file, and an afternoon, let me show you what I've created. This is a custom, home-built front brake light switch, my crowning achievement of the last few hours.
It's on the wrong side, Your Highness.
I used the piece of scrap metal to make this bracket, then I attached the switch so that this little tab extends down in front of the brake lever, and I fastened the entire assembly to the motorcycle using the mirror mount hole. I'm happy with the product, and I hope that it works. To test the electrical system repairs that I've done so far, I've decided to put some electricity to the motorcycle. In the absence of a battery, I'll use this old computer power supply that I have out here in the workshop. The wires are connected, so let's see if anything works. I'll start by pressing the rear brake pedal, which should illuminate the brake light, and it does. Next, we'll try the rear hand brake. I can see the light there as well. Now for the front brake lever, complete with junk drawer stop switch. It works! Amazing! I'm also curious about the horn. Very nice, very nice. I don't have any turn signals, so I don't really care about this switch. What has caught my attention though is the lack of headlight and tail light, which should be lit if the headlight switch is on. But look, it's broken. There is no switch to switch. So what do you think? Can we fix it? So let's take a peek here and see if there's any possibility of a repair. If you look outside, it's dark. I just got back from Mom and Dad's house. Daddy cooked a really delicious pork roast on the barbecue. Tasty, tasty. Wow, they don't give you much room to work here with this wire. Oh, here's a screw. Maybe if I take that out, I'll get a little more slack. Not sure how that's going to go back together, but worry about that later. There we are. Ooh, tape. So somebody's been in here before. Oh, that just slides right out. So this must be the switch right here. I'll take this tape off now. Ooh, it feels like Christmas morning. So what do you make of this, folks? It looks like two sets of sliding contacts. You know, I think I need to go inside and have a quick lookity-loo at the googly-doo to see what this switch is supposed to look like if there's going to be any chance of me repairing it. Alright, I'm back with pertinent information about the switch. Folks, this thing is fancy. Let me explain. Within this little bit of circuitry right here, there are quite a few things going on. This lower set of terminals, when connected with this slider, can turn the headlight on and off and switch between high beams and low beams. When a slider is connected to these upper terminals, it connects some wires in the alternator so that when the headlight is on, the charging system output is increased to compensate for the extra load that the headlight creates. Ingenious! So, yay for me. I know how it's supposed to work, but newsflash, there are missing parts. I did a little networking and found out that someone I know has a motorcycle that uses the same switch as my Trail 90. Now, it's not right to take another man's switch or another man's sandwich, but I was able to borrow the internal pieces of the headlight switch so that I can hopefully copy them. And let me show you what we're dealing with. There are two things on the get list. Firstly, this. It's a little piece of plastic that the copper sliders fit into so that they can move across the switch terminals. I also need one of these, a small metal arm that can control the plastic piece to actuate the switch. Both of these look rather tedious to make. I can't really build them out of 2x12s and 16-penny nails, but that's okay. I'll give it my best dropped out of community college try. So now I need to make a working replica of this little slider piece. To do that, I'll use this chunk of plastic that I found in my shop. I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad I have it. And it's a big piece too, especially compared to this, so I can afford to make a lot of mistakes and still have enough left over to try again. I'll begin by making some rough cuts with the chop saw. Here's the rough cut piece. So far so good. Now I'll trim it down a little more with the hacksaw. Now I'll try to carefully cut some grooves with the Dremel. And look at this, I got those grooves cut out enough that the little sliders fit in there nicely. Now I just need to do a little work on the top to recreate this bump. Well, I think my tiny plastic carrier piece is done. The copper sliders fit in there just right, and it fits nicely inside of the metal housing. And if we step over here to the motorcycle, it seems to work as it should on these contacts as well. So I think we can set this aside for now and start working on this metal arm. I'm going to make my actuator lever out of the same material I used for the stop switch bracket. This metal has an interesting history. A couple of years ago, I was tossing some trash into a dumpster when I spotted a vintage stereo amplifier mixed in with the garbage. I didn't waste any time. I jumped in, grabbed it, and hauled it home. Unfortunately, the amplifier didn't work, but I've been able to use pieces of its steel enclosure for many different projects. Just like this one. My piece of metal already has a hole I can use, so I'll attach the arm to it and trace a pattern. And there's the road map. Time to cut it out. We're getting there. Time for a little touch-up. Okay, the actuator arm is done. It's not an exact copy of the original, but I think it will work. I was also able to create the tiniest little spacer you ever saw. It goes right here so that when I tighten down the pivot bolt, the arm can still move freely. I noticed from a reference picture I have that I'm missing a small metal bracket that goes inside the switch, but I was able to find a thin piece of stainless steel that I bent into this shape, and I think it will work instead. So all of the pieces are finished. I think it's finally time to reassemble the switch. I'll start by putting the plastic block over the terminals. I've done a Jenny's Garage upgrade to this part. I installed a small piece of metal over the plastic tab to hopefully make it a little more durable. Next I can slip this into the upper housing, then install this little plate and the actuator arm. Well, that looks like it means business. Let's try it out and see. We're in the off position right now. First we'll try the low beams. Now the high beams. Okay, and look at that. There's even a tail light. Success! Alright, I've got the headlight switch and brake lever assembly put back together. I even found a piece of rubber tubing to put on the end of this arm to make it easier on the thumb. I think it's a nice finishing touch. So the headlight switch is done. What's next? I think I'll just keep the ball rolling and go to work on the ignition. The trouble with this switch is, regardless of the key position, there's never continuity between these two wires. So I'll take it apart and see what's going on. I think this rubber is fossilized. I've got the switch removed, but before I take it apart, I'll take a reading at these two terminals just to make sure my trouble isn't in these wires or the connectors. Hey, look at the voltmeter, everybody. I'm getting some intermittent connections somewhere in that switch. It's on now, but there's no contact. But sometimes I can make something happen. So I think I probably should still take it apart and clean everything. Hopefully I can do this without breaking anything. Hey, I think that counts. And it looks like the reason the switch doesn't work is just a case of dirty connectors. So I'll clean these up and it should be fine. Let's see if a little acetone can do the trick. That looks a lot better, but I think I'll just touch it with some 400 grit sandpaper just to be sure. Terminals are all clean, so back together she goes. The action feels nice. Let's see if it works. Off. On. Look at that, guys. I think we're in business. The key switch is back where it belongs. Knock that one off the list. And look what came in the mail. Special delivery, a battery. Let's put it in. I was getting ready to install this battery bracket when I thought it's probably a good idea to test the rectifier. That's this orange metal thing. Not because I don't trust electronics that were manufactured when Lyndon Johnson was president, but because I've heard these are prone to failure. So I checked it with my own meter, and luckily it's still in good shape, so I'll carry on. So first there's this. Next I'll install this bracket. Look at that nice rust patina. The pin that originally held this in place is lost and has probably turned into soil fertilizer by now, so I'll just use this number 6 screw instead. I like to make things myself, and if I was stuck in the middle of the desert with a dead battery and a motorhome full of chemistry supplies, maybe I could build a battery. But I'm not, and I didn't. My new battery is in place. Now I'll clean up and install this side cover. It looks like somebody used it as a dog food dish. There we are. I think that's good enough for something nobody sees. Hey, that looks pretty good, and I think the battery chapter has come to a close. Next, we'll direct our attention up here to these wires. There's a couple things I need to work on up here. This protective sheath, which once was soft and pliable, is now hard and brittle, so I need to replace it with something. There's also a broken wire down here. I'm not sure what it's for, but it's a good idea to fix it. So first I'll repair this wire. A little bit of a stretch, but it should work. Alright, that should do it. To get this off, I'm thinking I might be able to just crack it open like a pecan nut. It's got some dirt in there. To replace this, I'll use some rubber tubing. I got all these wires through the hose, and that's enough electrical work for now. Time to work on a flat tire. I really like this center stand. All I have to do to raise the front end to get the wheel off the ground is put a little weight on the back. I'm not certain what's wrong with this tire. The tube may still be good. I just know that it's flat and there's some guts hanging out. You'll know your bread is done when there are cracks in the top of the loaf.
Are those tire irons or shelf brackets?
Both. Tire diagnosis. I don't know if this tube holds air or not, but I've counted 4 patches and there's a lot of rust around the valve stem, and I was lucky enough to come upon a tube that I know holds air. So this is going in the trash. The rim is missing the rubber band that covers up the spoke nuts to protect the inner tube, and it has more rust on it than any rim I have ever seen before. It's probably out of balance because of all the material that's been lost right here, but I'll chip away at the rust and see what I'm left with. Finally, a use for a stubby screwdriver. Now, stage 2. Hey look, it's rusted through. Oh well, that's okay. Look here, that hole has a few neighbors to keep it company. Folks, I think this is as nice as it's going to get. Time to put it back together. Sometimes with a project, you never know what's in store. I never would have guessed the front rim would be rusted through. Surprises every day. But look, I found another one of these rubber things. The rim is ready to go. I have this rubber piece installed, and I put a piece of tape over the rustiest portion to make life a little bit easier on the inner tube. Just about time to put this tire back on. Okay, the tire is mounted. Let's put it back on the bike. I put some grease in this speedometer gear because hopefully I won't have this apart for a while. There! Now I have a properly inflated front tire. That didn't take very long. Did it? Hey, wake up. This chain has been stewing in its juice now for a couple of days. I think it's ready. It looks like whoever left this thing for dead in a pasture 25 years ago didn't keep up with their chain adjustments. The drive chain is installed and adjusted. What's left?
Not your intelligence. That's gone.
This guy. You just wait, see what I got cooking. The headlight. I have a really exciting idea. In fact, I'm not doing a play-by-play. It's going to be a surprise. Fade to black. Fade to black! I got amateurs working for me here.
You're self-employed.
Okay, are you ready to see what I did? Come with me.
I think this headlight enclosure is compatible with my machine. The price is $52.99. There's a reasonable return policy. I'll take a moment to have a look at the seller's feedback rating, and then perhaps we can...
I'm just kidding. Have a look at that. Look at that. It's a pan, baby. It's a pan. The headlight is a pot. There's no words. There are no words. The handle is still on it because we let it all hang out here on the ranch. This is Jenny's garage. This is a project, and the Trail 90 is ready to ride. Except the registration is expired. Before I may operate this machine on any public street, I first must go to my local DMV office, wait in line, pay some money, and be blessed with a sticker that says, yes, I can ride this on the street. I could take a risk, look both ways, and just ride it anyway, but then I have to ask myself, am I the type of person to do something illegal? Am I the type of person to disregard the rules of the road?